Hello to all CineMaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The movie begins with a mad scientist injected king cobra DNA into his assistant, aiming to alter the assistant's genetic makeup entirely. It didn't take long before shocking changes started to occur. First, the assistant began shedding skin like a snake, followed by strange, scaly patterns spreading across his body. His human head started morphing rapidly, and even his legs began merging at a visible speed. In the end, he fully transformed into a half-human, half-snake creature. But the twisted doctor wasn't satisfied. His ultimate goal was to completely turn humans into king cobras. Although this first experiment was a failure, it wasn't a total loss. The doctor managed to sell the creature for $800 to a quirky local circus, using the money to fund his next experiment. The struggling circus, on the brink of bankruptcy, struck gold with their new attraction. The half-human, half-snake creature became a sensation overnight, drawing massive crowds eager to see the bizarre exhibit. The circus owner made a fortune, cashing in on the creature's viral fame. As for the assistant, he could no longer speak. Trapped in his horrifying new body, he could only wave his arms in desperation, hoping someone would realize the truth and set him free. But to the gawking crowds, he was just a performer in a well-designed costume. Little did they know this monster was once a human being. The failed experiment didn't discourage the mad doctor. Determined to continue, he wasted no time searching for his next subject. This brought him to a school where an old professor friend worked. Hoping for a lead, the doctor asked the professor to recommend a new assistant. At first, the professor was hesitant, finding the doctor's strange, unorthodox experiments far from legitimate science. But out of respect for their long friendship, he reluctantly suggested his brightest student, David. David, already passionate about biological research, jumped at the opportunity. He eagerly accepted the offer, especially after meeting the doctor's charming and attractive daughter. He thought to himself, "This trip is already worth it." The doctor took David to his lab and proudly showed off his extensive collection of snakes. To ensure safety, he had categorized them based on toxicity using color-coded stickers: green for non-venomous, yellow for mildly venomous, and red for highly venomous. He assured David there was no need to worry. Each snake had a corresponding anti-venom ready for emergencies. To demonstrate, the doctor pulled out a highly venomous black forest cobra, marked with a red sticker. Right in front of David, he gave a step-by-step lesson on how to extract its venom. The black forest cobra, also known as the black mamba, is one of the most dangerous snakes in the world, second only to the king cobra. Just one drop of its venom is enough to kill 10 fully grown adults, and its effects are almost instant. Most victims don't survive long enough to receive anti-venom. Hearing the doctor's explanation, David wasn't scared at all. In fact, he was more eager than ever to join the research. But the doctor wasn't in a rush. For safety, he explained, David would need a special vaccine to suppress snake venom in case he was bitten and couldn't get to the anti-venom in time. Naive and trusting, David readily agreed. Little did he know he had already become the doctor's next test subject. The so-called vaccine wasn't a protective serum at all. It was DNA extracted from a king cobra. The king cobra is the most dangerous snake on Earth, with venom even deadlier than the black mambas. A single bite leaves virtually no chance of survival, even with anti-venom. But despite its fearsome reputation, the king cobra has a natural predator. Even the king cobra backs down in the presence of this seemingly harmless creature. After dinner, the effects of the injection began to kick in. David suddenly felt dizzy and overwhelmingly unwell. The doctor calmly reassured him, explaining that this was a normal reaction to the vaccine and told him to get some rest. "By morning, you'll feel perfectly fine," he promised. David soon drifted into a deep but restless sleep. His dreams were vivid and strange, full of bizarre and unsettling images. He felt a burning heat coursing through his body, but unlike the previous assistant, his transformation wasn't immediate. This time, the doctor had learned from his past mistakes. Instead of rushing the process, he opted for a slower, incremental approach, ensuring the human and snake DNA would fuse more seamlessly. Over the following days, the doctor continued to convince David to take daily vaccine injections, citing safety precautions. Oblivious to the truth, David agreed. Meanwhile, his body was undergoing subtle but significant changes. At first, he noticed nothing unusual, but one morning, he woke up to find his skin peeling off like a snake shedding its old layer. Terrified, David rushed to the doctor, demanding an explanation. Calm as ever, the doctor assured him this was a routine part of the vaccine's effects. He explained that once David's skin had fully regenerated, his body would be completely immune to snake venom. Trusting the doctor, David naively accepted the explanation. But strange things didn't stop there. As the injections continued, David began to notice an odd sense of familiarity whenever he saw a king cobra. He couldn't quite explain it, but the feeling was undeniable. However, he brushed it off, as his mind was consumed with thoughts of the doctor's daughter, Christina. One day, while returning from an outing, David passed by a picturesque lake. He suggested they go for a swim, but Christina initially refused. However, David persisted, charming her into agreeing. Their day together was filled with laughter. Soon after, they decided to visit a nearby amusement park. While there, David became intrigued by a half-man, half-snake sideshow being advertised by the circus. His curiosity got the better of him, and he urged Christina to let him check it out. She, however, didn't believe in such things, brushing it off as a gimmick, and encouraged David to go inside alone. But when David laid eyes on the snake man, a wave of unease washed over him, his scalp prickled, and an inexplicable fear surged within him. He couldn't understand why, but he suddenly felt as though he had seen this creature before, and the feeling was unsettling. Afterwards, David planned to tell Christina about what he had seen at the circus, but when he stepped outside, he saw her being harassed by a thug. Wanting to avoid trouble, David initially planned to slip away unnoticed, but the thug wouldn't let up and became more aggressive. This quickly escalated into a heated confrontation, which only ended when the police arrived. However, the thug wasn't done. He followed David and Christina back to the doctor's house. When he saw that Christina's room lights had gone out, a bold idea formed in his mind. He decided to climb up the pipes to sneak into her room, but as he reached out, he was attacked by a massive python, which had been lying on the desk. The thug panicked and fell to the ground. Fortunately, his strong physique prevented him from suffering fatal injuries. After regaining his senses, the thug fought back, killing the snake with his bare hands. Realizing the noise had alerted the doctor and the others, he knew his chances were gone for the night. He left with a final threat, vowing to return another time. Little did he know, he would soon pay a heavy price for his foolish actions. The pet that had been the doctor's companion for years was brutally killed, and the doctor was consumed with rage. He clenched his teeth and immediately decided to take revenge on the thug. He silently made his way to the lab, retrieved the highly venomous black mamba, and placed it in a bag. He then drove straight to the thug's apartment. Taking advantage of the fact that the thug was in the shower, the doctor quietly pulled out the black mamba and tossed it into the bathroom. The poor thug never had a chance to react before he was bitten on the toe. The venom acted swiftly, and within moments, the thug was dead. With his revenge complete, the doctor felt a sense of satisfaction. However, what he didn't know was that while he was away, something major had happened at home. When he returned to the living room and saw clothes scattered across the floor, his seasoned instincts immediately told him that someone had broken in. He picked up the clothing and went to Christina's room, where he angrily scolded his daughter for being involved with David. He warned her that it could lead to terrible consequences, though Christina had no idea about the twisted experiments her father had been conducting. She couldn't understand why he was so angry, especially when she was in love with David. The father and daughter argued heatedly. The next morning, in order for his genetic experiments to proceed smoothly, the doctor told Christina that he was going on a business trip, hoping to finish the final phase of his work in her absence. Meanwhile, David had already started showing clear signs of mutation. Not only did he feel extremely cold all over, but his arms had also begun to sprout snake-like scales. The doctor, however, explained that this was just a rejection reaction from the vaccine and tricked David into drinking a mysterious potion that was supposed to alleviate the symptoms. Despite following the doctor's instructions, David didn't feel any better. In fact, his entire body began to ache intensely, as though all his internal organs were fusing together. Realizing something was seriously wrong, David tried to leave and get medical help, but the doctor would not allow it. At this point, the doctor no longer hid his true intentions. He forcibly injected David with the final dose of the vaccine. Meanwhile, Christina had arrived at the supposed business trip location, but the boss there claimed he had no dealings with the doctor recently. In their conversation, he mentioned the Snake Man exhibit at the circus, describing it as the strangest creature he had ever seen. At first, Christina didn't believe it, thinking it was just a scam by greedy merchants using a fake creature to trick people out of their money. But driven by curiosity, she couldn't resist and secretly sneaked into the circus late at night. However, when she saw the half-human, half-snake creature in the cage, Christina was horrified. She immediately recognized the creature as the assistant who had mysteriously disappeared not long ago. Though she doesn't understand exactly what happened, she suspects her father is secretly conducting a terrifying experiment. Fearing for David's safety, she rushes back home without wasting time. Meanwhile, David is nearing the final stage of his transformation. His head slowly shrinks and morphs into a snake's head, while his feet begin to merge rapidly. Before long, under the eager gaze of the doctor, David's transformation is complete. He has become a full-fledged king cobra, the culmination of years of research. The doctor, thrilled beyond measure, prepares to test the creature's combat ability. Eager to prove his control over this new creation, he cleans up the massive snake and leads it outside, intending to demonstrate his power over it. But what the doctor doesn't realize is that David, now fully transformed, harbors a deep hatred for him. Seizing the opportunity when the doctor lets his guard down, David strikes swiftly, sinking his fangs into him. The doctor, unable to administer the antidote in time, is quickly overwhelmed by the venom, and within moments, he succumbs to the poison. When Christina rushes back home, she finds that her deranged father is already lifeless. Meanwhile, David, seeking revenge, is preparing to escape the laboratory, but he doesn't realize that he's being watched by a mongoose in the cage. The mongoose, a natural enemy of snakes, sees the king cobra, once terrifying to humans, as nothing more than a tasty meal. After a fierce battle, the already weakened David is no match for the mongoose, and his situation grows increasingly dire. When Christina arrives with the police, the mongoose has already bitten David to the brink of death. The story ends here. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button so you never miss an updates. See you